Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and our program, Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Thanks, Doug. It's great to be here. And we have got a fantastic interview for you today. He's a New York Times bestselling author. I think I've known you since before when you were just starting to write,
Yeah,
actually. Now he's
yeah.
got 19 books in the can and is doing fantastic. It's Brad Taylor, everyone. Brad, welcome to Get to Know.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I want to put you on the couch here for a minute and dig in a little bit because we want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. I want to ask you about your childhood. And I was wondering if you feel your childhood influenced you in any way to become a writer. And certainly you were special ops for many years, an officer, went to the Citadel, etc. That as well. I mean, how did your childhood maybe shape you into both of these things?
Yeah, well, as a child, I guess it's not so much my childhood as it was my personality. I was just always a voracious reader. So even from just growing up, I was always a big reader. I was a kid that read underneath the sheets when mom turned the lights out and that kind of thing. My other siblings didn't really read a lot. My dad had a thing where he said, I'll buy any book you read. And that lasted about 6 months with me. And my brothers and sisters, they got it for the rest of their life. But I read so much in 6 months, he's like, go to the library. I'm done buying you books. But as far as I say, my childhood growing up probably had more to do with me going in the military than it did for me being a writer per se. I always just thought I would be a writer, not that I would make money. I just always had in the back of my head that someday I was going to write a book. Trust me, nobody's more surprised than I was when it's sold. But I grew up on a little bit of land in rural Texas, East Texas, and I spent all my time hunting and running the woods, camping, that kind of stuff. And so I gravitated more to the military because of that, because of my childhood.
So walk us through a little bit. You graduated high school and
Yeah.
take us from there. How did your career or careers unfold?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't be in the military if it wasn't for my father. So I went to the University of Texas. I was a very, very poor student, terrible student. In fact, I was flunking out my freshman year. And my father told me that if I flunked out of school, I was going in the Army. And I was like, the Army? That's where dead enders go. Oh, I got to go to the Army. I'm not going in the Army. Well, I was flunking out. And so I was going in the Army. So I started researching it. And it turned out it didn't look too bad to me. I mean, they always talked about on TV about, learning a little skill, electronics or avionics or something like that. Well, I saw they'd pay me to run around the woods with a rifle. They'd pay me to jump out of airplanes. I found a Ranger battalions. I found Special Forces, found all that. And it looked pretty good. And so what I call my second freshman year, I actually didn't flunk out. By the skin of my teeth, I was still in school. Second freshman year, I joined ROTC and then went in the military.
Wow. So then did you graduate from UT or did you
Yeah.
change
Yeah. I
up?
graduated from
Okay.
University of Texas. I was second commissioned second lieutenant in infantry.
Hmm.
Went out to a light infantry division in California, did my first 4 years in light infantry, and then I applied for and tried out for Special Forces. And then my first assignment in that was in Okinawa, Japan. I was an operational detachment commander in Okinawa. And then I tried out for a special mission unit and was selected for that. And then went to Fort Bragg for special mission unit for pretty much the rest of my career.
And you went to the Citadel as well.
Yeah, well, no, actually, Citadel's here in Charleston. That's the reason I stayed in Charleston. I mean, I have a lot of connections at Charleston. My father went to the Citadel, and I have a twin brother who went to the Citadel. I taught at the Citadel in the RTC department. I didn't actually go there. So my final
Gotcha.
assignment, I was actually in a break between deployments, and I came down here after command time, and I was just to take a breather. I was going to do 2 years at the Citadel and then go back into the fight. And during that 2 years, I was so bored. I had so much time on my hand that I said, well, I'm just going to write a book. And so I did. And I thought it would sit on the bedside table, and my mom would say, "You're a really good writer, Brad." And that would be the end of that. And it sold. So I had to make a choice at that point. I'd come on the promotion list for colonel. My daughter was entering high school. My next assignment was unaccompanied to Pakistan for 2 years. And I had this book. I couldn't publish the book if I was going back into the special mission unit. And so I decided to give writing a try. I turned down my promotion and put in my retirement paperwork. I'd already served 22 years at that point, and became a writer.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, all of this experience obviously factors very closely into everything that you write, which is fabulous and heart pounding. And I mean, just some of the best thrillers out there. So talk to us about this. What's your process like?
Tell us about Into the Gray Zone. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did you
So
come
my
up with Pike
process.
Logan?
What's that?
How did you create Pike Logan? Let's go there
He was
first.
actually, he's just a compilation of people I served with, and I haven't had any instruction on writing. I haven't had, my degree's not in writing. I've never done any. I mean, I did nonfiction writing, went to master's. I had to write a thesis and that kind of stuff, but no fiction writing. And I wanted to write a story of redemption. That's what I wanted to write. Didn't really matter what the plot was. It was going to be a redemption story, kind of the Rocky. Really, I like the Rocky type story. And so you Google, how do you be a writer? And they say, spits right back out, write what you know. Well, I happen to be a counterterrorism special forces guy, so that's what Pike became. But if I'd have been a cop, Pike would have been a policeman. If I'd have been a priest, Jennifer Cahill would have been a nun. The story of redemption would have stayed, but everything else would have changed. My publisher calls it, they're military thrillers and that kind of thing, but that wasn't what I set out to write. I set out to write a story of redemption, and that was just the wrapping of the redemption.
Cool. What define the gray zone?
So the gray zone, oh
'Cause
yeah,
that's
actually the actual gray zone, it's known
yeah.
by hybrid
It,
warfare. It's basically unconventional warfare, short of actual war, but way beyond peace that we find ourselves in all the time now. With you can run the gamut of, well, Iran's an expert at it, proxy warfare using Hezbollah to get your means, all the way down to economic warfare, where we're fighting people off for getting certain things using economic leverage. It's just a warfare without, since we have nuclear weapons, it's too cost prohibitive to actually escalate into a full scale war. And so all nation states are using hybrid warfare, or the gray zone, as it's called, to execute their policies.
so not cold and not hot, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of it's still hot. I mean, as far as if
Oh
you
yeah,
consider hot, like as far as firing weapons.
but not like World War
Oh
II.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's the actual plot line for this book, and like most of my plot lines, there's some kind of story that piques my interest, and I read about it, and I'm like, what? Never heard about that. In this case, a year ago, they had a Sikh dissident killed in India, and it was just a random killing, supposedly. Well, it turned out that they accused the RAW, the Research and Analysis Wing, the Indian version of the CIA, of assassinating this guy on Canadian soil. The Sikhs have the largest diaspora is inside Canada, and we have a large diaspora too. Well, 6 months later, we arrested a guy from India trying to assassinate a Sikh separatist on American soil. And I thought, everybody's talking about Hamas and Hezbollah and all this. And I was like, what in the hell is going on with India running around assassinating people? It really interested me. And so I started doing the research on it, which drew me to go into India to set it as the plot line for the book.
Oh
well,
my
it's
gosh.
very
So
cool, and your research on the Sikhs and on India and on their military structure. I mean, I flew through this book. I couldn't put it down. It's just fantastic. I mean, how did you come about all that research? Obviously, a lot of it you had inside baseball information, so obviously that helped. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot of reading. Actually, I might have some of them sitting here. Um, yeah, The Unending Game, World Upside Down. I mean, I just started reading books that India and China. I started reading. I had read about 5 books on global politics of India, and I actually went away from the whole assassination thing in the United States and Canada. That's just what piqued my interest, and started gravitating toward the gray zone of China and the United States jockeying for position inside India, and that became a bigger story for me. So that's where I went.
I find all of this fabulous. And I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you still do consulting as far as
Yeah.
international
Well, it's
geopolitical.
I would say I do a heck of a lot less now. That I still, when someone asks, I'll certainly do it. I was doing it. I mean, writing wasn't paying the bills when I left the military. So I was full-time consultant. I mean, I was just
Mhm.
basically like you see everywhere else. I worked for everybody, khaki, triple canopy, you name it. I was working for them. And I've worked for the DNI. I've worked for all kind of people. And now I just, if they ask, I do it. Ever since really what the turnaround, because I enjoy doing it. It's good to get out and do that kind of stuff. I don't. I mean, now I don't have to do it for the money, but it's good just to reconnect, and you're with some friends you've always served with, and you always get some inside baseball when you're there, even though they're not supposed to tell you stuff. Once you sit around bullshitting after work, you're going to learn stuff. And COVID pretty much put a cank to that. COVID, everything screeched to a halt, and all the contracts ceased. Nobody could fly anywhere. And then that went on for about a year, and then it started cranking back up again. And I just kind of never got back into it.
So, I mean, it's got to be just absolutely fascinating. So the book is Into the Gray Zone. We've got Brad Taylor. Brad, tell our viewers where they can learn more about you, where they can buy your books.
Sure, they can see at my website, bradtaylorbooks.com. They can read an excerpt of the book. There's going to read an excerpt of all my books there. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that at bradtaylorbooks.com.
And
so what's next? What are you working on now?
Yeah.
We just came back. Well, it's been about a month now. Came back from Argentina for on-the-ground research, and I'm working on a book about Argentina. I've had it in the back of my head forever, and then when Hamas attacked, I thought, this is perfect. The largest diaspora of Lebanese are in the tri-border region, the triple frontier of Paraguay, Brazil, and Argentina, and it's the largest contingent of Hezbollah outside of Lebanon, or down there in the triple frontier. So I said,
Wasn't
there's a
that where
story
most
there.
of the
I've been saving that forever, and now I'm going to use it.
Wasn't that where most of the Nazis that escaped Germany ended up in like Paraguay and
Yeah, well,
that area? Yeah,
I did the
yeah.
Nazis in a short story, but that's where the triple frontier is right there is where all of
Exactly.
Hezbollah is doing a lot of drug running.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's how they're building their coffers, is drug running.
Right, absolutely. Especially since they lost the money from Iran.
Wow. Well, Brad Taylor, it's been fabulous to have you on. We've got to have you back as soon as this next book's going to be coming out. And thank you so much. I'm going to ask our viewers to please click the thumbs up and subscribe. It's free if you want to hear more of these interviews. That'll keep you from missing any. And I'll throw it back to you, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. It's always great. And I actually encourage everybody go buy Into the Gray Zone. It is a fantastic book. It will keep you up late at night. You will learn a political situation that you probably know nothing about, and great characters and a lot of fun. So until then, this has been Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube network. We'll be back with more interviews, as you know. And until then, keep reading, keep writing, have fun, and don't get caught.